From Boulder, Colorado, actress Shanti Lowry has seemingly hit the ground running ever since leaving her hometown and moving to Los Angeles. From pursuing her passion of dance and working with the Pussycat Dolls alongside the legendary Earth, Wind and Fire, she has acted on the hit show The Game, amongst many others, but now is currently starring and also producing the UMC series Bronx SIU. Let me begin by saying thank you for speaking with us, Miss Lowry.
Oh, absolutely. Thanks for having the interest in watching our show.
All right. Now, if you don't mind us getting some background, I read one of the reasons you got into acting and dance was an outlet for your childhood. So, was that something that your mom or dad came up with for dancing and acting, or was that something you pursued?
You know, I I think my mom was really supportive, but I do think it was definitely driven by me. Um, she would say that from a very young age, she knew I was going to be an actress because I was always just putting on sketches and things and entertaining people.
Hmm.
But I definitely drove the wanting to take class and wanting to, be better at it and make it into a career. And she was wonderful in supporting me, but was not a stage mom at all. She was always, just wanted me to be happy and be the best that I could be in whatever I chose to do.
And with these skits and everything, were they original stuff or based off of things you saw on TV?
Well, I didn't have a TV until I was almost 12 years old. My mom was sort of against technology, and then also we were very poor. So I think it was it was a balance of both of those. But it was definitely things that I made up. I loved fairy tales. I loved just reading anything, and then from that I would create my own story, based almost like a spin-off, I'll say,
Hmm.
of whatever I was reading. And then by the time, once I got TV and I was allowed to go to movies and things, I just fell in love.
And most of your training was at the Rocky Mountain School of Dance and Performing Arts, right?
I wouldn't say that. I trained there for a couple of years, in my junior and senior years,
Hmm.
and I got really phenomenal training and great experience that led me to Los Angeles. But I really was self-taught for most of the time in Colorado, just because we couldn't afford a lot of classes.
Hmm.
So I took at the rec center, which was free for people living in the area. And, I would take like 3 or 4 classes after school every day because it was also sort of babysitting for my mom. It was a place for me to be that she knew I was safe. I think I would say that I was mostly trained out here in LA. When I moved out here at a very tender age of 17, I would say I was young and impressionable, and yeah, and I really just soaked it all in. All the teachers that are at like the Edge Performing Arts Center, I'd
Hmm.
say that's where I really trained.
And was there ever a consideration to possibly go to like the University of Colorado or Juilliard to possibly train, like either somewhere close or somewhere like really established?
I had a lot of different opportunities, and I chose to move to LA because I booked the Earth, Wind, and Fire tour.
Hmm.
And my mom was the one who said, you can always go back to school. Those opportunities are always around, but this one is now. And she was right. I got to see the world. I was really young, maybe too young to be off on my own, but I learned a lot on that tour.
And
And I'm
how
grateful that I did it.
and how did you book a tour with such a legendary band at the age of 17?
Oh man, I was pinching myself at that age too, because I was a huge fan of Earth, Wind, and Fire growing up. I knew every single one of their songs. I think I was the only person at the audition who knew their songs.
What?
And yeah, I mean, these kids, they were kids, they were teenagers. They don't listen to that kind of music, I guess, at that age, but I did.
Hmm.
And I honestly think that was my leg up. I really loved the music, and it was dancing and singing. So if you already know the songs, it's, you have a leg up on the singing for sure.
And you was doing
And I
backup,
just booked it.
and you was doing
Yeah,
backup singing
backup
as
sing. Yeah, backup singing and dancing with Earth, Wind, and Fire. Yeah, 17.
And I noticed that you don't really do much singing anymore. At least there's not any new tracks out there, really.
No, I released a like I did the hook on a rapper's album maybe 2 years ago,
Hmm.
and I had a blast doing it. But I think I love so many different aspects of the business, and they all take so much time to master that, it's just, there's a season for all of it. I would still love to pursue singing in some form, whether that's just like a musical or singing for a part in a different way, or maybe releasing my own music. I think that's definitely in the future. It's just, there's too much going on to do everything all at once.
Mm-hmm. And once you finished the tour, how did you find housing and stay consistent when you was in LA?
Huh. Well, I rented a room in someone's house, and I would say the consistency just came from, I lived as small as I could, as small a life as I could, so that I could be out auditioning as much as I possibly could, as opposed to doing some, 9-to-5 job, or waitressing or something. I chose to save and live a small life and really be out pursuing my dream of dancing and acting as much as possible. And I think also I was very blessed. I booked the jobs when I needed to, and I had people who helped me when I absolutely had to have that help. I don't think anyone can make it on their own out here. You have to have a village to help you.
And just out of curiosity, is the hustle that you use in order to go to auditions for dance the same as you do for acting, or are there differences when it comes to it?
Oh, it's totally different. It's a completely different world. It's completely different agents. They behave differently. That's why I say there's different facets of the industry, and you really have to focus on just that one thing in order to become a master of it. And like there's different agents for commercials. If you really want to be a star of a commercial star, you need a commercial agent. But if you want to be a theatrical star and you want to book TV shows, you really need a theatrical agent. If you want to be a dancer, you've got to have a dance agent only, and they really just don't cross over. And dance agents, there's only 4 or 5 really big ones out here at all, and they kind of just have all of the talent. Whereas theatrical agents, there are probably 500 located in Los Angeles, and they're still the top 4 or 5, but you can book work with any one of them. So it's a totally different world.
Oh my goodness. Now, jumping ahead to Bronx SIU and your character Yolanda, while you seem to be the type who enjoys a challenge, was there any fear involved in taking on this type of character who has a former PTSD but is also a badass in a way?
You're so right. I love a challenge. It's definitely why I do what I do. To learn and to grow and to be challenged. And Yolanda was a big challenge every step of the way. I think mostly because I felt a sense of pressure to get it right, because, there are people like her out there that are getting by. They're doing their job. They're showing up. But inside, they're a mess, and they're trying to figure it out, and it's not always pretty, and it's not always shiny and clean. And I just really wanted to show people that this is a real person, and not make it a caricature. So that was probably the biggest challenge, to find all of these really dramatic things happening and find a way to ground it.
I was just wondering, how do you prepare for that, especially since with the social media age, every little thing that you do could be scrutinized?
Absolutely. I try not to think about that as much as I can. I try and just be honest to myself and not worry about what other people will think. That's number one. And then to prepare for it, like I said, I just try and be really honest. I do the work. That's the main thing. You do the work, you do the research, you make sure you understand the place that your character is living, whether that's because of the PTSD or she had abuse growing up, which means she has issues with men. And, you just really have to dig in and do the work and understand the background. And then after that, there comes a point where you have to just let go and trust yourself, because if you go into it thinking there's one right way to do it and you have to perform it this way, it's going to become calculated and not effective. So you've got to do the work and then let it go and just trust. And you have to have a really great team around you, which I'm very fortunate on Bronx SIU. I've got a great director that, he'll pull me back in if he feels that I've gone too far, or he'll let me play. You've got to have somebody who lets you do both.
And how do you handle Yolanda once the scene ends? Do you just accept that she has become a part of you? Do you need to be alone and disassociate, or are you able to go in and out on command?
You know, I've had a problem in the past with that. I had a difficult time getting rid of another character that I was playing. I needed to actually like have a ritual of shedding that character at the end of the day to make sure my mind was in the right place.
Mm-hmm.
But Yolanda, I haven't had that problem. I think because we shot for such long periods of time, and I'm also a producer, so I'm asked to both be Shanti and Yolanda multiple times during the day.
Mm-hmm.
You know, whether that's to answer a question or to talk about, you know, a character arc, I have to be able to be both simultaneously, and it's made it really easy. I haven't had any of those weird moments at the end of the day where I'm, you know, feeling like weird in my own skin. It's been nice. It's been nice this time.
Okay. And I was also kind of wondering, comparing Yolanda to other professionals we see on TV, she's one of the few we see that's actually in therapy, that does have moments like when she relapsed early on in the first season, but still goes back to try to get better. How important did you feel that was to include a character that was in therapy, sometimes stumbles, but is still trying to like get better?
Yeah. No, we thought it was so important, and the director Mike Mayhall and I talked for hours and hours about those scenes to get them right, because again, when you're portraying someone in therapy, you don't want to make it a caricature. You want to make sure to show that therapy's not always, you know, easy, and then at the same time, sometimes you have good days. So we kind of made a list of all the different things that we wanted to make sure to show in those therapy sessions.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it really ended up being a very important part of who Yolanda is. And I don't know if that was the intention in the original scripts,
Mm-hmm.
but once we started filming it, we realized how important being in therapy is for Yolanda. It's kind of the one thing that's keeping her, you know, attached to her reality.
And do you think it was also important? I believe it was in episode 3 of the first season. Also show why she needs that, as opposed to just talking to Jimmy about her problems.
Yeah, I'm very glad that they chose to do that. I think a lot of times show they solve problems very easily, right? You have somebody who's got these really deep issues, and then they go and they talk to one person who gives them some sort of, you know, great advice, and it just turns them around. And we really wanted to not fall into that pitfall, and show that, you know, even though Jimmy can be a good influence on her, he can't save her. She's got to do the work on her own.
Mm-hmm. And I would be remiss to not mention that you are now an Emmy nominee for your role as Yolanda. So congratulations on that.
Oh man, thank you very much.
Now, considering how far you've come and how hard you work, do nominations like that mean a huge lot, like a validation, or is it just part of the job and you're just doing what you can as you go along?
Well, I think it's twofold. When I shot season 1, an award couldn't have been further from my mind. You're just there because you're honored that you get to play this phenomenal character, and you want to do the best that you can. And then when I heard that, you know, several of us had made it to, like, you know, the top 20 for Emmy nominations, all of a sudden it occurred to me that the validation would really be for the show. That if one of us could get that nomination, then it would prove that all of the hard work that we all put into that show every day, just blood, sweat, and tears, was worth it, because you cannot have somebody get an Emmy nomination on a bad show. That doesn't happen. You know, people judge the show as a whole, and a performance is not done in a bubble either. It takes an entire village to create that performance. So all of a sudden, I felt like we really did want that validation. We really needed that to be able to say, hey, we worked hard and it was worth it. Now that we have 3 nominations, which is mind-blowing, I guess I'm sort of back onto the other side of it, where I don't know that we needed that validation. The only validation we needed was to know that fans, you know, want to keep watching it. And so I guess I'm on both sides of it. I'm really honored beyond anything, but I also I love what I do, and I don't necessarily need someone to give me an award. I just want to keep doing it.
And when you were younger, was there ever like dreams of winning an Oscar, Tony, or anything like that, or was it just I just want to work in this field and be happy?
Oh, yes. I definitely had dreams of winning an Oscar, and I think as any young child who's dreaming of better circumstances, you dream of all the people that you'll tell off, and that didn't believe in you. And then you get to the place where you're actually happy doing what you want to do, and you realize that that's just not the emotion anymore. There's not a single person I would want to tell off. We all do our best, and we're all just trying to survive in the industry. And, I have no idea what I would say if I won anything, because I feel mostly speechless that anybody would give us an award. We just want to do great work.
Mm-hmm. And speaking of future work, I saw on your Instagram that you announced that you have a graceful tomboy clothing line. You call it Misha?
That's my middle name.
Oh, I'm
Misha.
sorry. Not everything's available online.
Yeah, my middle name is Misha, and I'm named after Mikhail Baryshnikov, who is probably the most famous ballerina currently. Mm-hmm. And my mom always wanted me to be a ballerina, so she named me Misha, which is what people always called him. And the funniest part about that is Misha means Mike in Russian, mm-hmm. and so my name is Mike Lowry. Do you remember? There you go. God. I knew you remember it. Isn't that funny? Anyway, so Misha is it's a big part of my life, the idea of graceful strength. The idea that you can be delicate and yet fierce, that you can have that balance. Because as a dancer, especially a ballerina, people often think of us as fragile. Mm-hmm. But I think that ballerinas are some of the strongest athletes that I have ever met. And I've worked with a lot of athletes in all different fields. And so to me, this fashion line is the idea of meeting, that graceful, delicate, beautiful line that women like to wear with that strength where you can be out and about and running around and doing your chores and you can still feel graceful in it. So that's the Misha line, and I'm really excited. I'm excited to wear the clothes, so I feel like we've done the right thing.
So if you're saying, I'm assuming it's not just going to be for possibly like young girls, it's going to be for grown women as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Any graceful tomboy.
And do you happen to have an ETA? Would it be sometime this year, maybe next year?
Yeah, it's we're ready to launch. I just personally want to do a big order from my manufacturers and make sure that whatever customers will be ordering is of a high quality. Mm-hmm. So we're going to push that back and do a photo shoot at the end of April with all of the clothes from the manufacturer to make sure that they're high quality, and then we'll launch.
And will it be in retail, or will it be through an online store, your website maybe? Which way?
It will be through the online store that Mihaela Jade, she's an Australian designer. Mm-hmm. She and I have partnered, and so my line will be through Mihaela Jade's store.
So it's going to originally be in Australia and then go worldwide?
No, her store is online, so it'll be worldwide instantly.
Awesome. And I also wanted to check about your upcoming film, Bolden. I've seen it's been in development for quite a few years, but it's finally getting released on May 3rd. Could you talk about your part in it a little bit?
I wish that I could. I honestly don't know. This is going to sound strange, but I shot Bolden, I want to say back in 2009?
Whoa.
2009. Yeah. And we've had 3 different sets of reshoots on the project, and I was able to make it through 2 of the reshoots, but I was not available for the 3rd reshoot, and therefore I thought I wasn't going to be in the film. And I just heard recently that because of all the stuff we had shot previously, I'm still a huge part of the film, but I can't really tell you what that role is because I think they recast my actual character, so it'll be a surprise to me as well.
Oh dear. And
I know.
think I remember you working on a sitcom stuck together, a dance sitcom or something like that. Is there any update
Yeah.
on that?
So, and then one other thing, Family Time, the TV show that I've been working on Bounce for 6 years, we are shooting season 7 and 8 to close it out, coming up in April, which I know will be heartbreaking for Family Time fans, but we are going to do 7 and 8 and be done. And then right after that, I'm shooting a pilot that I created called Stuck Together, which is, it's going to be, it's a family sitcom, but every episode will have a high concept, beautifully shot dance scene in it as well. And it will always be a different dance style. So it'll be almost like maybe a little bit Fame-like, with a little bit of drama and a little bit of dance.
Do you have a network locked in? Because I saw it's going to be on New Kingdom, but I haven't seen anything past that.
We don't. We are talking with 2 separate networks, and we're just kind of waiting to decide whether the executive producer wants to shoot it himself or whether he wants to sell it after or sell it before, essentially.
And just out of curiosity, would it be is UMC part of the negotiations to kind of keep that in the family, or you're just open to anybody?
Not right now, but it's not that UMC, we wouldn't be interested in UMC, but that's not one of the 2 networks that we're dealing with.
Okay. And now we're going to go into the final 5 questions. You ready?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
All right. Who or what inspires you to continue?
Do you want the good answer or the real answer?
I want the honest answer.
The honest answer? I feel like it's kind of morbid, but I think me and death kind of keeps me moving. I have so many things that I want to do, and another day is never promised. So, you get up every day and you think, you could procrastinate or you could go ahead and do it because your dreams are waiting. So that's what keeps me moving.
Makes me glad I didn't wish you happy birthday then.
I have always had such a weird thing about my birthday, but I'm starting to realize that I need to celebrate it and be so grateful to have one more day. I don't know why I've always had such a negative connotation with my birthday, but I'm working on it.
I'm doing the same.
Are you? It's hard.
Be 30 in a few years, and I keep thinking I haven't done enough.
I know. But don't think of it like that. Just think there's so many things that you want to do, and keep moving and keep living.
I'm going to keep that in mind and just keep using you as an inspiration for life goals.
I love it.
Now, the second question is, do you feel like in your field you have started to gain ground and got comfortable?
I do feel like I've started to gain ground. I don't think I'll ever feel comfortable. I hope maybe someday I will. You asked me if as a kid, I dreamed of walking on, winning an Oscar and walking on that stage. Mm-hmm. The truth is I always dreamed of not even winning, but just walking onto the Oscar stage and looking around and having everybody looking at me with acceptance. Like, you deserve to be there. You're part of it. You're one of us. Mm-hmm. And so that is truly my ultimate dream. It's less about the accolades and more about the acceptance, because as a woman of color, mm-hmm. It's hard to find your place in any industry, I would assume, certainly in this industry. I don't want to be a wallflower and just sit and do what people tell me to do. I would like to be involved and produce, and that's a leap for a woman of color. That's something that there's not a lot of us doing. So no, I don't feel comfortable. I don't know if I ever will, but that's the goal.
Just to follow up on that, was community a big thing with your parents, or did you just develop that over time?
Community?
Mm-hmm. The sense of community kind of keeps coming up, like when it comes to acting, when it comes to producing in the Bronx SIU show. So I was wondering, is that something just was built into you, or you just kind of developed that and searched it out as you got older?
That's interesting. I guess I don't know. It seems like you're right, that maybe that's just part of me. So I don't know if it's a nature or nurture thing, but I just certainly feel that we are all better off when you have good people around you and you're not going through something alone. I definitely have always felt that way.
All right. Question number 3 is, what is one thing, if someone were to follow your path, you wanted them to know they must do and what they should avoid?
Ooh, okay. Wow.
So
That's such a great question. That is like so wonderfully poignant to ask, and especially the what to avoid. I guess I would just avoid anyone who ever makes you feel that you're not allowed or you're not right or you shouldn't or maybe you should rethink that. Any of those feelings, literally just avoid those people, because maybe they're right, but that feeling that that's giving you, that's negative, and that is going to block all of your creativity and all of your forward progress. So avoid people who tell you what you can and can't do. You want to be around people that tell you that you can do anything and want to help you get there. Things that I did, was that the question? What I did that I would redo?
No. It would be what you must do if they were to follow your path and what they should avoid.
Oh, okay. That wasn't a good answer then. Okay, what you must do to follow my path is definitely work hard. Learn how to sit and study for hours. You know, that's what it takes to be a really good actor and really get into a role. You've got to sit down with that script and just focus, and that's not something that everyone can do. So I would say practice, sitting and focusing, just like school. And then what to avoid to get here?
Yes, if they were to follow your path.
They must avoid. I do think it's the same. It's those negative people. You have to avoid them because you can't survive if people are telling you that it's impossible, because it is almost impossible to get here. So you've got to have people that make you feel like you're going to be the exception.
All right. For question number 4, as of where you are now, where do you see room for growth?
I see a lot of room for growth in my personal branding. It's never been something that I've been interested in, because the side of the business that I love is the character building and the work and the storytelling. But a big part of being successful in any industry is also marketing and branding. And that is something that some people out here do nothing but marketing and branding, and they have nothing that they're actually selling. Once they actually get on set, they won't know what they're doing. But then you've got the people who are really great at what they do, and they just need to work on marketing and branding themselves. And I would say I fall into that category for sure.
Which kind of leads to a question that I cut off for time, but I feel the need to ask it now. Are you ever scared of losing your anonymity, I think is the way you pronounce it, when it comes to being more and more successful, especially in this industry?
Yeah, I don't think about it because it's not something you can control. It's sort of a side effect of things that I want out of life, is the way I look at it. You know, if I want to do this project and I want to make sure that we get a season 3, I'm going to need to market and brand myself. And in doing so, you lose the anonymity. And it's not to say that that would be my choice. If I could order it off a menu, I would take the anonymity and the success, but you can't. So I just try not to think of it. I try not to, as my mom would say, borrow worry. You can only do what you can do and control what you can control.
Okay. And the final question is, in the long run, what do you want to be your legacy?
I would like people to remember me as a little girl from Colorado that nobody thought could make it, nobody except for herself. And the legacy would be that when people look back at my career, that it blows their mind that I kept fighting and kept pushing and came from where I came from and ended where I ended, wherever that is.
Mm-hmm.
I try not to set really hard boundaries or goals, because I love goals, but not really specific, because then I feel like you constantly feel like you're letting yourself down. I don't know where I'll be. I'm sure I'm going to push hard and it'll be somewhere wonderful, because I won't settle. And I hope that wherever that has people looking back and saying, wow, she kept working hard her whole life. That would be a great legacy for me.
And that's definitely one to look forward to. And
really? That's a good one?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Oh my God, yeah.
Good.
So I'm definitely hoping when May 5th comes around, you'll be walking on stage, even though I don't. Are you preparing a speech at all, or you're just glad to be in the room at this point?
I don't know if I'll prepare a speech. I know that I have people in my mind that I would want to thank for sure if I won, but I don't think even if I prepared a speech, I would be able to remember it at that moment, so I probably won't.
All right, but still, fingers crossed for you winning, not just for your own personal brand, but also the show. And I thank you once more for speaking with me.
Absolutely, Amari. It was such a pleasure, and I really appreciate the wonderful review you wrote, and also the detailed review. I shared it with our director as well, because I love listening to the way fans interact with the show and the things that they're thinking. That's, my favorite part. So he loved it as well.
Oh, thank you so much.
You're welcome. It was great talking to you.
It was great talking to you, too. I hope you have a good evening.
Yeah, you too. Thanks a lot. Hopefully we'll talk again soon.
All right. Have a good day, miss.